Friends, I just pressed the Let's Go Live button, so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. I had a little trouble with the button today. I didn't know if I should press the Let's Go Live button or there's a fire alarm right next to it. I didn't know, should I press the Let's Go Live button? It's big and it's red, and the fire alarm button's pretty big and red, and but I got the right one, so I think the tubes are working. That's great news. Let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about Donald Trump's trial. Man, this thing is a disaster taking place out of New York, and we're going to go through it. The New York Supreme Court, we've got this judge here who is smirking and posing for the camera. Look at this guy. Engoran is the guy's name. And he is, MSNBC was in there, waving their cameras all over the place. And he's like, hold on a minute. There's only one time in your life when you get to prosecute your political enemies on communist show trials. Let me take my glasses off for this nice little photo experience. So we're going to go through what happened today because, man, just minutes ago, actually, fresh out of the oven, there's actually some good news. Trump made a statement about it. It's not even on the mind map, but I'll dig it up as we go through it today because I just saw it as I sat down. But we're going to go through exactly what happened, all right? We're going to go into the courtroom. Now, there were not cameras there during the proceeding today, but it sounds like there was a lot of arguments. There were opening statements and from both sides, but there was some camera action in there, and you can see Tishy James is back, man. We haven't talked about her in a while, but there's something curious about this. She's sitting behind the bar, which is a very curious place for her to sit since she's, the attorney general, the biggest Tishy out there in New York. And so we're asking ourselves, if she's always the person in front of the cameras, always lecturing everybody about no one's above the law and all that crap, well, how come she's sitting behind the bar, right? The public sits behind the bar. Attorneys who are doing the attorney work, they sit in front of the bar, but she's not doing that today, as we'll see. Even MSNBC's commenting about this because, she does talk a lot, and this was one example of that. When she was out this morning before the proceedings took place, just talking for about like 60 seconds. She comes out, reads her little talking points off a note card, and then sits in the back of the bar. It's unbelievable. All right, so we'll see what she says. Jason Miller over on Trump's team is also out here speaking about what he says this is all about, so we'll check in on that. Now, Jonathan Turley was commenting on this in real time. He's saying, the fact that Trump showed up here, the fact that we've got another one of these communist show trials happening in America, literally, right? They're like trying to take this guy's business away from him. Just picture your business or where you work just being gone because some judges and some so-called prosecutors decide to take it away from you. So Trump shows up, says, if you're going to do this to me, why don't you look me in the eye and do it? And so he's there. We'll go into the court and see exactly what was happening there as we go through the show. But Turley says there are consequences for this. And this morning on our members stream, this morning on Locals, we were talking about Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And so we'll see if that applies here. We've also got several clips of Donald Trump who was speaking today. He came out several times during breaks, during lunch, and he even did a little 8 minutes, which we'll go through, where he talks about the valuation of the properties, and this has a lot to do with so-called fraud because he was saying that some property was valued accordingly, and the insurance companies and the other entities on the other side of this transaction seemingly agreed with him. But now Attorney General Tishy says that no, it's all fraudulent. So he says, we'll explain the valuation. And then we've got the new announcement for Trump talking about the statute of limitations. So we'll make sure that we don't miss that because that is fresh out of the oven right now. Then we'll also get updates on the January 6th case because this is another reply that came out from Special Counsel Jack Smith, the prosecutor in the Trump case out of, January 6th and Florida, D.C. and Florida. And he submitted a response. We're having this back and forth about this gag order. Trump speaks because he has the First Amendment and he is a citizen and he's running for president. So you sort of expect to hear from him, because he's running for president. But Jack Smith wants him to shut up because Jack Smith doesn't want him to be able to contest the illegitimate Department of Justice and to slam the unethical and unconstitutional prosecutions that they are bringing against him. And so we have this back and forth. We already read through Jack's first request. We read through Trump's response to that request. And now we've got Jack Smith's reply. And he's like really begging Judge Chutkan. He's like, can you please gag Donald Trump because now he's talking mean about Mark Milley, talking about treason and all sorts of things. And so Jack Smith, says you gotta gag him, Judge. He really loves the gag. So we'll talk about that. Then we've got this, a sort of, pause for a moment of silence maybe during this segment. We'll have to see. But Bowman attacked our Capitol building. Oh my gosh. Another insurrection. America is having to wake up for this. And I hope you never forget. Now, I don't know where you were on 9/30 when this attack happened, but I remember vividly where I was. I was here talking with locals. And then after the conversation, man, it was just bedlam over there in D.C. But if you're not familiar with what happened, well, the Democrats were trying to stall out the vote on the spending bill. This was on a Saturday. All right. Yeah, that's right. And I think that's right. I'll have to look at the calendar when we get into it, but someday. Anyways, the point is, Hakeem Jeffries, the House Speaker, was there, and he was communicating about his magic minute moment. Now, the speaker has like this special rule where he can just talk all day, and then the business is paused. And so he was trying to buy time, is the point. He was trying to delay this thing. And while that happened, insurrectionist Jamaal Bowman was busted pulling the fire alarm to try to obstruct the official operation of Congress. Marjorie Taylor Greene has a clip of this. Fire alarms were going off. There were building evacuations all over the place. We're going to ask ourselves, is this just an innocent mistake from Jamaal Bowman? Was he just trying to get out of the door here or something? And the answer is really no, okay? That was a fire alarm. And we have seen hundreds of people prosecuted for obstructing Congress and for interfering with the lawful operation of whatever. And the litany goes on. And disorderly conduct and going on. And not to mention, okay, this may have caused actual physical damage to one AOC, all right? AOC, she shared this image of her Apple Watch. And in her Apple Watch, she says her heart rate got up to 120 beats per minute. My goodness. So she was having a little bit of a flutter, a little, oh no, it's nervous in here. There's a fire alarm. I wonder if she ducked under her desk again because she was under attack from the insurrectionists. And you'll notice that there's a loud environment. It hit levels decibel above 90 decibels because of the fire alarm, because of Jamaal insurrecting the Capitol building, man. And so we're going to go through this. Now, he is trying to eschew responsibility on this, but no, we're not going to let that happen, okay? Nobody's above the law in this country. They've been screaming at us for the last several years now. No one's above the law, including insurrectionist Bowman. And so the attack on the Capitol, he tries to explain it away by explaining, just in a hurry here, I was just trying to go vote. He was trying to unlock the door with a red fire switch or something. MSNBC was covering up for this guy. George Santos, who knows a little something about, maybe manipulation, he gives him an explanation on fire alarms. Even Santos knows how to work a fire alarm. And we're going to check in with McCarthy, the White House, and AOC, who is defending AOC, the Bowman insurrectionist, which is a shocking thing because she was one of the people who I thought was under attack. Didn't she get stabbed or something during the last attack? I think she, got decapitated, had to put her head back on or something, and then go save America or whatever. So we'll go through that. We've also got Bowman now officially dropped some talking points out here, and he's calling Republicans Nazis, which of course they are because of their fire rules or something. So we'll go through this, and to our fellow, Nazis who also don't pull fire alarms, we're going to go through a lot today. And so we're going to be here, my friends. There's a lot to attend to, and we're grateful that you are here and joining us. I hope you had a beautiful, beautiful weekend. Had a great weekend myself. We had an amazing members-only stream this morning where we were talking about all the activities today, including the Trump stuff. We were kind of watching the Trump stuff unfold in real time. And if you want to join us for members-only morning streams and other members-only stuff. We'd love to have you, including a members-only after party, which we'll be doing today after the show, after we get through all that meat and potatoes. We will sit back here and debrief everything we just talked about, and we'd love to have you over there. We've also got our friends, our website, robertgovea.com, is a new place where you can go. You can sign up for our daily newsletter, so you can get all of those show reports delivered to your inbox. And when you sign up there, you can also get access to this entire mind map, okay? Everything we're about to show you and go through, you can navigate it on your own, and it's easy to sign up for. There's a mind map tutorial video there, all free, and you can just sign up so you can access the archives and everything that we're doing here. It is October, so we've got a new mind map. So up to those of you bookmarking out there, update your mind maps because it's October and we've got a new one out there, and we'll update the emails that go out and all the things. So check that out. Now, we also have to get fortified and nutrified courtesy of our friends at, yeah, that's right, Field of Greens, baby. Because we all want to lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds, but how sick are you of all the ads for the weight loss pills, the fad diets? You know, we've been there, we've done that, we know that they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables a day. You do that, the weight would probably just fall right off. But look, vegetables, not a fan. And fruit, who's got time to prepare that every day? Pff, I don't. Instead, let's talk about Field of Greens. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula. Specific fruits and vegetables you're not going to find in any other product, all right? Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you're going to look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when your doctor takes one look at you and says, woo, woo, you are looking good. Whatever you do and whatever you're doing, keep it up. We're going to know it's Field of Greens, and you can go over to fieldofgreens.com and you can save 15% off your first order. Very simple. Load up your cart. Lots of good stuff there. It's more than just real organic superfood at Field of Greens. You can get other stuff. Check it out. And don't forget to use code Robert when you check out. That way you can save 15% off with code Robert. And let's not forget, my friends, look how happy these vegetables look, okay? They want to be eaten. That's why they're popping around all over there on the screen. That's how excited they are. You don't even have to feel bad about it. Fieldofgreens.com. All right, now let's get to it. On the day, because we've got some serious business to attend to. Donald Trump facing civil charges in New York, and the judge sitting there laughing and posing for the camera, almost smirking, taking off his glasses and saying to the world, wow, I better make this one look good. There's only so many times in your career as a judge when you get to run a communist show trial to try to take property away from other people in America. And Donald Trump, as usual, is the one who is facing the wrath from these people. He's not just facing the wrath of the judge, who's already issued some pretty adverse rulings on this, but also from Letitia Tishy James. And that was her name. She called herself Tish James for some reason some time ago. And so we just honor that memory. Tish James was in the courtroom, but she was behind the bar. We're going to ask ourselves why that is. Why wasn't she up there prosecuting this thing? And Trump had very good news that he just dropped that we'll get to at the very end of this segment, once we get our bearings straight on exactly what was going on, because Trump was speaking all throughout the day, and we'll get into his reaction as well. But first, what was going on in the courtroom? You can see here the New York Attorney General, Tishy Letitia James, very excited about this prosecution. And there were not any cameras in the courtroom when the proceedings were happening. But for some reason, at some point, it seems like before the day's events got going, before court was actually in session on the record, that there was a cameraman in there. And take a look from MSNBC reports and watch what's happening. He's just scrolling around the room.
This is the first look inside that courtroom. Our NBC cameras, the pool camera here, they gave us a chance to shoot. So now we all see what's happening inside there as this trial gets underway.
That's DA
There's the DA James, yep, right, sitting there. Actually, not at the front table.
Wow.
That's kind of interesting.
No, she's not trying the case. So she's sitting behind her attorneys.
Yeah, the Attorney General there,
Why?
Tishy James. Thank you so much. And there you see President Trump, the former president, I should say, next to his attorney, and that's Chris Kise, who we expect to make the opening statements here. And then this,
Judge Engoran.
I guess, is Judge Engoran, and he is awaiting the start of this trial.
Yeah, so cameraman gets off him real quick, all right? There is so much to unpack in this clip. I can't even begin to start, so we're going to do it. But take a look at this. Now, we'll just kind of turn the volume down a bit here as we go through this. This is a very curious thing. You know, New York Attorney General Letitia James, you know, she was the one who ran this case. She ran for office promising to prosecute Donald Trump. And we've played the clip of her many times. Okay, she actually has facial spasms when she speaks about this. She said, I'm going to prosecute this illegitimate president. And her face was all contorted like the Sith in the Star Wars movies. You know, it's weird. Like it's contorted by the darkness, the dark side, right? And it's of the energy, that she brings to the case. And so here what you can see is that she is not at the table. She is bringing her other people to the front of the table. She's got a bunch of, attorneys here who are not her, people we've never heard of, who are actually prosecuting the case. And she is sitting back behind the bar. There she is, right? And this is where the public sits. Okay, so attorneys cross the bar and the public sits behind the bar. And so who are all these people up here who are actually prosecuting the case? My question is, what type of involvement does Tishy Letitia James even have in this case? Because she's not even sitting kind of in the second row of the attorneys. She's not sitting even second chair. These are, interns or whomever's behind there. And so not even up front. And, the media parades her around as though she's like this powerhouse legal scholar, this thinker who's going to deliver justice. And as we're going to hear from her in a minute, she does take the stage in front of the cameras when the media is out there and they want to hear from her and she needs to deliver a little stupid 60-second soundbite about something. But why is she not prosecuting the case? Now, we've been seeing the same thing with Big Fani Willis. Fani Willis will sign the important documents, but is she going to actually be out there in front? Or are they just front people for some other cabal of, in this case, maybe New York City lawyers, NYC law lawyers, or, Harvard law? They've got these guys who are, who knows where they're from or whatever, but they are really the people who are behind this. They're really doing the heavy lifting. And Letitia James and Big Fani Willis, they're the people who are just the front people, right? Who are actually out there not doing much of anything other than just talking to the cameras. So she's there. Now the judge, right? Now, first of all, Tishy, as you can see her, she's back here now, and she's like stalking him like a psychopathic ex, right? You've seen this look, my friends. We've all been there, you know what I'm saying? And like you like turn around and that person's looking at you like this. You're like, yo, somebody get a restraining order on this, all right? What is this? Like lusting, lunging, staring. And, the cameraman's just catching what he can. But look at this woman. And we've known she was a little bit, I don't know what is going on in her mind, her face spasms and stuff like that. But it's like she's got a stare from one of those psychopaths in a movie, quite frankly. So this is another scene of the judge. Now, this is another wild scene. And so my question is, why was the camera allowed in here just to get a quick synopsis of what was going on? But this judge then poses for this camera. He takes his glasses off and smiles for this. In the media, and he knows it's not the right thing to do. You know how you know that? Is because he does this little whatever. He does this whatever move, whatever. And you know who he's looking at when he does that? What table is he looking at over there? Is that the Trump table, the defense table, or is he looking at the government's table, okay? Tishy James's table. He's looking at Tishy James's table, right? He's looking at the prosecutors who are doing the same thing. They're giggling like schoolgirls over there, and he's giving them this little look like, hey, it's a circus here. We're in it together. Look at that smirk, man. This is a judge in America. A judge in America, impartial, no bias, none of this stuff. You can read it on his face. Doesn't even have to say anything. And he is just busted. The court, like I guarantee you, we can't see on the other side of this camera. We can't see on the other side, right? But the prosecutors are sitting there laughing because we saw them doing that earlier. Like, watch it. Look at her giggling. It's totally rigged. We know what the outcome is. It's all a show trial. We've got the president. Tishy is salivating, trying to hold back her facial spasms, and they're all looking at Trump. And so when the camera then pans over to the judge, he look, she's still smirking. She's still laughing right here. She's laughing, kind of making comments, and the judge looks at her, looks over there, and just says, yep, I whatever. Why not? This only happens once. This only happens once. I better enjoy it. And so what's often fun to do is watch these without the audio, right? You can actually just see what's happening. And so we'll let that play through one more time. And you can see her giggling, laughing. There's Tish, just scowling, staring. Even her friend to her right is like, whoa, whoa. Do you see that little activity there? Her friend looks at her and then it's like, whoa, okay. She's got like a Mitch McConnell going on right now. Somebody needs to shake it loose, shake it loose. So strange behavior all around. And this is what a courtroom now looks like as they drag Trump in. Now, Trump showed up and people were concerned about this. Was he actually going to be there? You can see to his left is Alina Abba, and she's in the house. And my understanding is that she gave some opening arguments today as well. But there's Trump. There's our smirking, laughing judge who just loves what he's doing. Hey, hold on a minute. And you can see what the courtroom looks like. So now that we have that and we know what we're dealing with, let's see what Tishy actually said when she was out there. She was sitting behind the bar. She was not actually participating in this case, but she sure was involved enough to show up and talk to the cameras.
Donald Trump and the other defendants have committed persistent and repeated fraud. Last week, we proved that in our motion for summary judgment. Today, we will prove our other claims. My message is simple. No matter how powerful you are,
what?
No matter how much money you think you may have, no one is above the law. And it is my responsibility and my duty and my job to enforce it.
To what? Sit behind the bar?
The law is both powerful and fragile. And today in court, we will prove our case. I thank you all for being here. And again, justice will prevail.
Yeah, okay. So she's out there real tough, real, powerful New York AG going after Donald Trump. She doesn't even sit in front of the bar. She sits in the back of the courtroom, behind the bar, on her own accord. For whatever reason, don't know why she did that to herself, but she's out there. She does like to speak in certain contexts, but maybe not when it's actually time to do some legal work. She'd rather pass that off to people who are competent. So this is Jason Miller on Trump's team. He came out, was also making a statement. Here's what he had to say.
Letitia James.
Gosh, sorry about that.
Getting Trump. That's what this is about. Election interference. Letitia James, Alvin Bragg,
Tishy,
Fani Willis,
Fanny,
Merrick Garland, and Joe Biden. This is designed to do nothing else but stop President Trump as he's leading by 10 points in the general election. We have a renegade judge here who's ignoring ruling of the appeals court. President Trump's assets are worth way more than what the court would have you believe. But this is all about 2024. Do not get it confused.
All right, so very simple statement, absolutely right. Total political witch hunt. And we were even asking ourselves, who's the complainer? And look, Letitia, whatever you want to say about her, you can spend a lot of time unpacking the case. And we're going to hear Trump talk about valuation and all of that stuff, okay? You can do that, and you can argue the merits and whatever. In my opinion, I don't think that, obviously, Trump would be under this scrutiny if he had not been president and if he were not rerunning for president, because we know this because Tishy is on record saying that she was running for office for the sole purpose of prosecuting Trump for bringing all of this, which in my mind delegitimizes the entire thing, right? She had no real mindset to start an investigation from scratch. She was a dog in search of a bone. Trump was it. And so she was going to go find it, and she did. Now, that scene, obviously not a good scene. And it is, from our perspective, if you don't like to see communists take property away from anybody, any citizen, and you don't like to see bureaucrats try to, wreck orderly administration of capitalism because they hate their political opponents, what you see is very upsetting to watch Trump, who shows up, and has to sort of play this stupid game with all these clowns. It's an uneasy feeling. But let me just be clear, right? I do believe that there are consequences for this, right? What these people are doing when they laugh with glee, when all these lefties are on Twitter like, yeah, take his business, right? Whatever. they're playing with forces I don't even think they recognize. Not, you know, I'm not talking about like people getting angry. I mean, this is like you're siding on the side of property rights or no property rights, you know, and you're violating those universal precepts of, you know, free exercise and your ability to exist as a human, right? To take the reason property is so valuable and such an important concept is because you take your life and you take your time and you mix your labor with the world, with other resources, and you create something of value and you exchange that value for money. And so that mixing of your life is imbibing your life into that property, which you're exchanging for money. So when communists come in and they take that away, it's as though they're taking away human life, right? They're taking away human creation. And it is a demonic thing that they do, and they love to do it, and they get gleeful from it because it's a power satiating experience for them. And ultimately that power is contorting, and I think it is something that is a dark energy that they're trying to accumulate. My point is that when they create these environments and they thrive amongst themselves in it, and they, you know, dunk on each other, dunk amongst themselves, it will have consequences. And Turley explains this, and here is what he said about this. Jonathan Turley.
There's a camera in that courtroom. Was that supposed to be, or would they just be simply ushered out when we're gabbled to order?
Well, you're more likely to have cameras in state proceedings, and so it's up to the discretion of the judge. And quite frankly, I'm not too sure that both parties wouldn't want this. I think that Trump views this, the optics of this, as working to his advantage. Look, people looking at this live picture right now will be either filled with rage or they will be thrilled. And that's the problem, is that, you know, you have James now being shown in the background, you've got Trump in the foreground, and it fulfills the narrative on both sides. Trump is likely right. I mean, he's being shown in a sort of tag team series of prosecutions and civil lawsuits where one prosecutor tags another. They're all insisting on these trials occurring before the election.
Yep, and they're all being done to specifically target Donald Trump. And so I think Turley's right about this. There will be consequences. I think that people will recognize what's happening here. And we were talking about this morning on our members only stream about Newton's third law, right? And for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Whenever one object exerts a force on a second object, the second object exerts an equal and opposite force on the first. And this is just a physics term, but I thought it made sense, right? They push, and you find this in martial arts too, right? If somebody's pushing on you, you sort of use that force or you redirect it, and it causes another reaction that you can take advantage of. And I think that that's exactly what's happening here. I mean, Trump showed up intentionally to put his name on this and to stand up, and he came out and he spoke very forcefully, and we'll go through some of it to hear his take on what happened today. And the audio is a little bit rough because there's so many cameras, but let's see what we can take from it.
This is a disgraceful trial put forward by an Attorney General corrupt. We have murders going all over the city, all over the state at a record level. It's an epidemic, and they waste their time on this with banks that were very happy. They got all their money back. They weren't defrauded. I've been defrauded. With a judge that ruled that a building, that a property is worth $18 million, when in fact it's worth over $1 billion, probably $1.5 billion, it may be worth anything. When many properties which I sold are worth much more than were listed in the financial statement, by double and triple. What do you have to do? And we're wasting our time on this trial with a Democrat judge from the clubhouses. It's a disgrace. They ought to look for the murderers and the killers that are all over New York killing people, and the violent crime that's being committed in our city and our state is disgraceful, and we're going to be here for months with a judge that already made up his mind. It's ridiculous. He's a Democrat judge, he's an operative, and it's ridiculous. Other than that, things went very well.
What are you going to have for lunch? Will you come back after lunch, Mr. Trump?
Probably.
All right, so that was Trump after the lunch break, right? Breaking for lunch, came out and said this judge is a Democrat judge. And, you know, it's a very provocative thing to be saying outside the judge's courtroom, to walk outside the courtroom and say, this judge is a psycho Democrat. You know, it's like, wow. And it is, you know, the tensions there are very, very high, obviously. And so we're curious about, you know, how the rest of the day was going to go. We do have a, you know, good update from Trump. He came out, of course, the clock just struck on the East Coast. And so we've got an update here on the statute of limitations. But I wanted to share this clip before we get there from Trump explaining the valuation. They took another break later on in the day, and Trump came out and he's really walking us through exactly what this is about. And they're saying, you know, Trump is engaged in fraud. Long story short, takeaway. Trump said our properties are worth $100 million. They're worth $10 million. Wait a minute. You said that they're worth $90 million more than what they actually are worth. Therefore, you defrauded the banks, the insurance companies, because you got loans on that inflated value and blah, blah, blah. Right. And so it's technical. It's math. We skip most of that here on this channel. But the point is, Trump is now going to come out and explain why their valuations are just subjective. Right. They just picked numbers that they liked. And one of those numbers was $18 million for Mar-a-Lago. And if you ever looked at Mar-a-Lago, you know, we were joking, like we could probably buy, like we, you know, could we maybe fund to buy an $18 million Mar-a-Lago? Because I think you could probably turn that into like, if you could generate 18 million, you could probably sell it for 500 or whatever it's worth, right? It's like lunacy. So it is one of the most prestigious properties on the planet. And for $18 million, like, give me a break. So here is Trump now explaining what his take is on valuation.
As I say, murders are going on as you stand here. They're wasting everybody's time for many months on this case where banks got paid a fortune, loan money got paid money back, didn't even need their money. So the great companies would have to go through this. So this just broke, but before I discuss that, why are we trying a case that the appellate division of New York State has just ruled recently
That's their feed, not ours.
80% of our case. And this judge refuses to acknowledge the ruling, which is very plain for all to see. We won, as you know, it had to do with Ivanka, and it had to do with other things. It had to do with the statute of limitations, where they wanted to go back to 200 years ago, 500 years ago. It was limited, very much limited, and it amounted to about 80% of the case was won by us in the appellate division. And this rogue judge, a Trump hater, the only one that hates Trump more is his associate up there, his person that works with him. And she's screaming into his ear on almost every time we ask a question.
That's interesting.
Disgrace. One other truth, it's a disgrace. So this rogue judge refuses to acknowledge the fact that we won 80% of this case in the appellate division.
Okay.
Including statute of limitations.
Okay, so we're going to come back to that because Trump has an update for us after this, right? They go back into court. He comes back out with an update.
On the statute of limitations, you have a period of time. He wants to go back so far that nobody's ever even heard of such a ridiculous thing. So we won the case in the appellate division, and this judge refuses to acknowledge the appellate division, meaning he's got contempt for his own court system. Nobody's ever seen that before, where he refuses to even talk about it or acknowledge it. And the Attorney General is she's a corrupt person, a terrible person, driving people out of New York, number one. That's number one. Number two, it just came out a few minutes ago where Palm Beach County, the people that do this, agree with us 100%, and they say the judge is wrong.
In Florida.
The judge is wrong, and he's
$18
ruling.
million.
He valued Mar-a-Lago at $18 million, and it's worth $1 billion, maybe $1.5 billion.
Wow.
And you saw where various properties that we have that are valued in the financial statements, which is totally subject to the clause that you've all been hearing about doing buyer beware, as they call it. But this just came out. Error in New York civil fraud case against Trump is flagged by industry insiders who say valuation of Mar-a-Lago cited by judge is based on a misunderstanding of basic real estate practice. So they're saying the judge has misunderstood basic real estate practice. I say they're wrong about that. He didn't misunderstand.
Yeah.
This is a rigged court.
Yeah. He knew what he was
He's put there
doing.
to do a job on Trump. Now this comes from highly respected officials in Palm Beach County. Also, apparent mistake by Judge Engoran surfaces in the use of a Palm Beach County appraisal of Mar-a-Lago that, an expert says, is detached from the true value of the property. Now, I don't know the people that we're talking about in Palm Beach County, but they saw this egregious trial, this horrible, horrible trial going on, while at the same time people are being murdered right outside of the streets, and nothing happens to those people that do the murdering. They go after Trump. So this was just released by Palm Beach County, that the judge in this case is wrong. And by the way, he's talking about them. So they're explaining to him that he's wrong. Here's another one, just came out. New York v. Trump could set precedent for the use of New York's overweening executive law. One doesn't have to be a lawyer to see the danger to anyone doing business in the Empire State.
Right.
Anybody that does business in New York State is crazy.
You're gonna everyone's gonna flee.
You have a radical left attorney general like Letitia James, who's a disgrace to our country.
Yeah, just think about it, right? It's not just Trump. Trump is just the current defendant right now, just the current victim of an ideological partisan prosecutor like Tishy. But it's not going to just be Trump. Okay, it'll be the next person, or it'll be the next industry, right? How long before they come after some entity that doesn't comply with DEI requirements, right? Well, they're being racist and offensive in New York City, and so now they're committing, some sort of violation of the commerce, whatever, right? They just find reasons to go penalize and punish the entities that they don't like. It's a climate change business. You're not complying, you're polluting or whatever, right? And your property's just ours now. And you've got the judges who comply. You've got an electorate there who's like championing Letitia James. They're like, yes, queen, go get him. What are you talking about here? He's seizing property. Any business in their right mind would just divest, go reincorporate somewhere else, go pick a different place and get the hell out of New York.
We got elected on the fact that she's going to take down President Trump. We're going to take him down. She knew nothing about me.
Spasms.
But she got elected on that basis. And we have others likewise. Take a look at what's going on in Georgia. Take a look at Jack Smith. Take a look at these people. This is called election interference, and worse than that. Really much worse than that.
Way worse.
And you don't get much worse than election interference, especially we're talking presidential election.
It's theft, it's harassment.
So,
by your government.
This judge should change his ruling because Palm Beach County said he was totally wrong, and he was ruling based on them. He ruled we didn't even have a chance to testify. I got a call last week, sir, we lost part of the case. I said, the trial didn't even start. The trial starts, I guess, today. He ruled that we lost a big part of the case because he's a Democrat club politician. He's a Democrat operative, and he's a disgrace to people that call themselves judges. And I hope my lawyers go in, and I hope they fight him very hard, because this guy's getting away with murder. And his clerk should not be allowed to be in his ear on every single question. You take a look at what's happening with her. She hates Trump more than he does. So that's where it is. We have 80% of this trial has been won. In June, they came down, the end of June, with a decision, very powerful decision. And it said, on statute of limitations and just about everything else, would you say approximately 80% of the trial? Attorneys, is that right? Approximately 80% of the trials won. He refuses to acknowledge his own appellate division. And I think it's a disgrace to our country.
We'll see. We're going to come back to that.
Because if you don't fight, our country's just going to go down the tube. This is election interference. This guy's a highly partisan person. And we can't let this stuff happen. So you should ask yourselves as professionals, I have a lot of respect for you, not all of you, but a lot of you. Why is it that he didn't honor the decision of the appellate? And by the way, I believe it was a unanimous decision, right? It's a 5-0 decision, unanimous decision. And he said, I'm not going to honor it. Let's go to trial. This is a judge that should be disbarred. This is a judge that should be out of office. This is a judge that some people say could be charged criminally for what he's doing. He's interfering with an election, and it's a disgrace. Thank you very much.
Mr. Trump, why do you want to be here in person today?
Because I want to watch this witch hunt myself.
Yes.
I've been going through a witch hunt for years. But this is really now getting dirty between Jack Smith and between all of these DOJ people helping them along. This is a pure witch hunt for purposes of interfering with the elections of the United States of America. It's totally illegal. This judge should be disbarred. He shouldn't be allowed to be a judge. Thank you.
Yeah, he'll probably get a promotion, right? They'll probably put him on the bench on federal court or something like that. So Trump is absolutely right? He shows up there. He's like, I'm going to look you in the eyes. Or if you're going to do this to me, look me in the eyes and do it. And so he showed up there and he delivered a great statement. And I think he's absolutely right? The facts are irrelevant. The law is irrelevant. It's all about just a political prosecution. It's a show trial. It's a show court. Letitia James ran on prosecuting him, which in my mind makes the entire thing illegitimate from day one, day one. And here we are. And so Trump came out, explained how obviously an $18 million valuation on Mar-a-Lago is one of the dumbest things you could ever possibly imagine. And it was something that he was right about. Now, we'll fast forward through the updates and boom, we have a nice takeaway from Trump. He came out and made this announcement. You can see it's at the close of the day in New York, 4:32 p.m. Eastern time. This shared by Alex, ALX over on Twitter. And here's what Trump says, making an announcement about the statute of limitations. And before we listen, right, statute of limitations is the concept that the government has to bring charges or pursue causes of action, this is a civil case, within a certain period of time. If you don't bring the charges, if you don't bring the complaint within a certain period of time, you lose the opportunity to do that. The reason for that is we don't want evidence to spoil. Witnesses lose their memories, blood results go bad, evidence might disappear, drugs might decompose, DNA evidence gets less testable, whatever it is, right? So you have this rule that says you got to bring your complaint within a certain period of time. Donald Trump ran for president in 2015, took office 2017, but was basically, winding up a lot of his affairs to make the transition into the presidency after the election in 2016. And so we are now quite some time away from 2016. And so we're asking, how far back does the statute of limitations go? In other words, can Attorney General Letitia James go back indefinitely all the way back to 1980s and say, Trump, when you were 32, you said something to this guy in a Bergdorf's or something, and therefore prosecute him for that? Like, what is the cutoff? What's the limit? And Trump says, good news. We got a statute of limitations ruling in our favor. Here's Trump.
That was very good. That last 5 minutes was outstanding because the judge essentially conceded that the statute of limitations that we won at the Court of Appeals is in effect. Therefore, about 80% of the case is over. I was going to come out and say that,
right on.
As you know, we're not entitled to a jury, which is pretty unusual in the United States of America. So we think it's very unfair that I don't have a jury. But the judge's last statement was very fair. And if I read it right, I'll let perhaps one of the lawyers speak to it. But Cliff, maybe you'll speak to it if you would. But the way I interpret that, and the way everyone else in the room seems to interpret that, is that the statute of limitations is a very real thing in this country.
It is.
And that would be about 80% of this case would be over. Could somebody speak to that, please?
And so remember, we had a similar situation with E. Jean Carroll, who actually allegedly got, attacked in a Bergdorf's, and the actual R attack, she was not found victorious on that charge. Trump won that. And so what they've done is they've extended the survivor statute of limitations in New York, right? They created a change in the law to give her a new claim. And now they're saying that the AG, in this case, should have brought the other charges prior to 2014 a long time ago. They expired. You waited too long, Tishy.
Sure. So based on the judge's comments, based on the judge's comments at the end of the trial today, it would appear that he is agreeing that all the transactions that closed prior to 2014 are now out of the case.
Wow.
Which is about 80% of the case.
Wow.
And it's also something that we won on appeal, but was not accepted by this court, but now seems to be accepted by this court.
All right. It sounds to me like Trump was totally vindicated. Okay. He came out. He said, this is how it should have been found. There is a statute of limitations, and went back in. Attorneys made some arguments. Trump comes back out. 80% of the case is gone, right? Because Letitia James, she's got all of her charges from 2012 and 2013 and 2014 and, beyond that, probably way before that. And all of that is gone. Should have addressed those a long time ago. Sorry, Tishy. And so we'll see what's left, but that is very good news for Donald Trump and his team there in New York. Trump seems a little relieved on that, honestly, right? His demeanor changed. Says, it's been a good 5 minutes the last time we were out there in court. So what started off as a troubling day, and still, of course, is a troubling experience, may have wound up in a little bit of a better position. Of course, this is only day one. We've got a lot more developments. We will continue to cover those developments right here. And so we hope you join us as we do. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for signing up for our daily newsletter at robertgovea.com so you can get all these news segments delivered to your inbox. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Now, we're not done yet. We've got more Trump updates, because this one now is where Trump is being prosecuted, although this time in a different court. And this one involves Jack Smith. Special counsel Jack Smith is now begging Judge Chutkan to really issue that gag order against Donald Trump. Donald Trump posts stuff on Truth Social. He calls the Department of Justice and this entire prosecution illegitimate, saying that he is being targeted. This is election interference. These are new and novel legal theories that have never been tested before. We've got different rulings from the judge herself, who are saying Donald Trump needs to read like 8 Washington monuments worth of copy paper of discovery within just about 4 to 6 months, and he can figure it out. And so Jack Smith is now doubling down on this, saying, Judge, we need you to issue this gag order. Trump is speaking too much. In fact, now he's talking about Mark Milley. And Mark Milley is now no longer in the military, and Trump might be insurrecting him now. And so we've got to stop Trump from speaking or else. Now, previously here, we've talked about Jack Smith's original motion. He filed the original request for the gag order. Trump issued a response, and now we have our reply. Okay, so we have the layers on layers. Now, Jack Smith, because it was his original motion, he gets the final word, and Jack is wrapping up his arguments to the judge. And this is going to be a monster case, okay? If Trump is gagged in this and he can't talk about this, we now have the First Amendment running right into due process. We have a major constitutional problem here. And I am of the mindset that the judge is going to gag him, and we're going to see what Trump does if he violates that so-called gag order by defending his First Amendment rights. The follow-up question is, what does the judge do after that? Does she order to show cause him? Does she sanction the defense? Does she take him into custody or something? We'll see. Now, this is the response, the reply from Jack Smith. Here is what he says. It's a longer one, but we'll hit the highlights. 22 pages, filed in the District of Columbia. Of course, this is the January 6th jurisdiction. The case is United States of America by Jack Smith versus Donald Trump. And let's see who signed off on this motion. Who is it here? Oh, it's Molly Gaston. Oh, great. We all know Molly Gaston, all right? She's a highlighter girl who apparently thinks that her highlights substitute for the defense needing to review the evidence, because she highlighted the things that the defense needs to know. So here's what she says. Your Honor, after Donald Trump and his lawyers engaged in weeks of, listen to this, widespread public statements threatening the orderly administration of justice in this case, the government prosecutors, us, we filed a request seeking a narrowly tailored order, right? So they're saying just a tiny, tiny smidgen of a gag. It put little restrictions on all parties' extrajudicial statements. And they say, Our order balances Trump's free speech rights with the court's responsibility to ensure a free trial fair from outside influence. So Trump, on one side has his First Amendment rights. The court on the other side of the scale has to ensure the orderly administration of justice, and saying this is just simply, Your Honor, a common sense order through which the court can ensure that no jury study is conducted by the parties that prejudices the veneer. Now, we'll fast forward through a lot of the jury study stuff. The bigger issue in my mind is the jury study is a big part of this, but we'll skip through a lot of that. What happens oftentimes in criminal law is parties will create literally like focus groups. You've heard of focus groups to watch a new commercial or to watch a new movie, and you say, I didn't really like that ending. The ending was kind of weird, or that character really was a problem for me, or whatever. So you actually hire focus groups, jury studies, and you kind of present evidence to them. Hey, if I say that my defendant is, cool and cunning and brave or whatever, does that sound good, or do you prefer these phrases? He's a father and he's a charitable person. Like what adjectives do you like better, right? That fit and that type of stuff. So here, Jack Smith is saying Trump should not be allowed to do any of that without more approval from the court. So in Trump's opposition, so Trump said, this is crazy. We shouldn't be gagged. This is the First Amendment, okay? We have a campaign happening right now, by the way, where Trump is beating Joe Biden by many polls. And if you gag him, he's not going to be able to talk about the politics, one of which involves an issue that encompasses our illegitimate Department of Justice. How can we talk about the illegitimate DOJ if Trump is gagged about it? So they say Trump's opposition is premised on inapplicable case law and other false claims. They say Trump demands special treatment, saying that because he's a political candidate, he should have free rein to publicly intimidate witnesses and malign the court and citizens and prosecutors, which Trump has never, in my opinion, said or done. He doesn't want to intimidate witnesses, but Jack Smith and Judge Chutkan are illegitimate people, in my humble opinion. But in this case, and Trump should be allowed to say that. So Molly, the prosecutor, says, but in this case, Donald Trump is a criminal defendant like any other, except he's not, right? By the way, he's not, okay? He's actually running for president, and he is beating the person who leads the Department of Justice. So they can keep saying this, and they might want it to be true, but it's not. And it implicates other things. So if you gag him, he cannot talk to millions of Americans about one of the most critical issues of our time, which is a corrupt law entity, a justice system in this country. And as this court has correctly stated, it has an obligation to protect the integrity of these proceedings from any interference. And Trump should not be permitted to continue to try this case in the court of public opinion. There you go. That's what they want. They know that Americans are finding that this court of law is illegitimate. And so Trump's going to the court of public opinion. They don't want him to do that. They want him to go back into the illegitimate DOJ's January 6th DC circuit, where they can win everything. And Trump can't communicate about this to the American people. The government's motion, therefore, should be granted. They say this order is necessary. They say courts have obligations to take steps by rule and regulation to protect their processes, and they can put reasonable restrictions on any of these people. They say Trump's opposition creates different standards, including strict scrutiny, and you see all of these rules here, and they're going to just dispose of these cases. They're going to say, well, we read that case. Trump referenced this case. We read it. We think he interpreted it wrong. And they're giving us a lot of law, a lot of response. All of these italics are just case law. U.S. versus Carmichael, U.S. versus McGregor. We've got U.S. versus Schuck and all of them. So they say courts in this district have adopted a certain standard, and Trump's standards are different, Your Honor. So don't listen to the standard that he said, listen to our standard. In some, the court may enter an order in this case that does restrict their statements if it's this standard, if there is a substantial likelihood of material prejudice, as long as the court's order is narrowly tailored accordingly. And we think that this is narrowly tailored. Now, obviously, they're going to say that, and probably the judge is going to agree with them. And we'll see what Trump does about it, because their definitions of narrow tailoring and who is not a witness is at odds. And remember, Jack Smith has not even disclosed all of the discovery yet. So we don't even know who all the witnesses are. Trump hasn't gotten everything yet. And when Trump reviews what's in there, he might have questions about other people who are referenced in there, or he may fill in the gaps. This says there were 3 people in this room. You only gave me the names of 2. I need to know who the third person is. You didn't tell me who the third person is, because you didn't even mention the third person, but there was a line in there where he was talking to her, and I saw they in there. So who's they? All right, who's the person? You tell the prosecutor, go find out that person. Well, I don't know who it is. What's your job to find it out? So go find it. It's supplemental discovery. Go get it. And so my point is, Trump might be talking about those people who may ultimately be witnesses or whatever. And they're going to say that Trump can't even talk about, the court or the judge or the prosecution. So they continue. They say the proposed order is constitutional. The proposed order is very narrowly tailored, and it's even more narrow than other courts. And so, Judge, it's perfect. And honestly, they say Trump, we need this order, Judge, because Trump has been posting a lot of bad, mean truths. They say the need for this order is further evidence. Here's Molly saying, since we initially filed this request, so the government asks for a GAG on September 5th, and Trump just goes wild. Since that date, Molly's shocked. She's like, I told him to stop this. Trump has continued to make statements that pose a substantial likelihood of prejudice to this case. For example, on September 5th, shortly before the government filed its motion, Trump posted an article on Truth Social. And he had posted this to more than 6 million followers, making claims about the court with a sarcastic caption, which Molly does not like. Trump said, oh, I'm sure she will be very fair, and an article circulating a false accusation against a special counsel prosecutor with the caption, really corrupt. Molly does not like that. Yeah, sarcasm's bad. And criticizing Jack Smith's circulating a false accusation, according to whom? To you, Molly? It might be true. How do we know? Have we had an investigation? Maybe we should. On September 6th, Donald Trump also posted 2 attacks of the former vice president, a witness in this indictment, okay? So Trump cannot talk about Pence. Guess who Pence is? Oh, a competitor in the primary for the 2024 race. So Trump issued a post attacking Pence, and they say to Trump, no, sorry, Pence might be a witness. Therefore, Trump cannot comment about it. In relation to this case, saying that he'd seen the vice president make up stories about me, and they're absolutely false, and that Pence had gone to the dark side. So Trump can't comment now about his competitor. Maybe he should not be allowed to talk about Joe Biden too. In an interview that aired on MSNBC, Trump answered more questions for more than an hour. And he said among the following things. He talked about the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. He said, I didn't do anything wrong during the phone call with Brad Raffensperger. He might be a witness. So can't talk about that. Another witness identified in the indictment, the former Attorney General, Bill Barr. Trump said he didn't do his job because he was afraid of being impeached. And then Trump posted this about that little weenie, Mark Milley, who's filled with white rage or whatever, right? He says, on September 22nd, Trump also falsely claimed that the retiring chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, another witness in this indictment, had committed treason and should be eliminated. Trump posted this. He said, Milley, who led the most embarrassing moment in American history, been grossly incompetent, wasting billions of dollars, left $80 billion of equipment in Afghanistan. It could have been useful maybe for Ukraine, but we'll just make some new $80 billion and give them that, probably $200 billion or maybe a trillion. We'll see. After 20 years, probably a trillion. Anyways, so Trump goes on. He says that Milley obviously is not a good person. And he says on the same thing. Trump is instigating. Milley's another witness. He posted another one on the 23rd of September. He reposted a caption that said, what a mess, Raffensperger, the subject of that post. The 26th, he linked an article singling out Jack Smith. He claiming that the special counsel's office is a, quote, team of lunatics that are working so hard on creating election interference. Molly doesn't like that, but sometimes the truth hurts. I don't know what to tell her. So this is what they're very upset about. We're not a team of lunatics. We care about justice. And I have highlighters. So the defendant's baseless attacks on the court. Oh, there it is, baseless. So as you know, we have a history here, right? Basically, everything that the left has said is baseless has been proven to be true, right? Basically, like all of our complaints about the election, all of your attacks on 2020, baseless, 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 turns out to be true. All right, so here they say baseless attacks on the court, and the two individual prosecutors not only could subject them to threats, so if Trump makes a statement about it and it could do anything, they're at risk now. It could also, could cause potential jurors to develop views about the propriety of the prosecution. That's the point. That's the point. Not for the jurors specifically. Like nobody's trying to, target the DC jurors. That's not the point. But the point is, Trump has the right under his First Amendment to attack the propriety of the prosecution. Okay, that is exactly allowed because he's running for office. And one of the things that is going to be in the responsibilities of the new president is, guess what? The Department of Justice. And if the Department of Justice, and I believe this, I think it's probably one of the, if not the biggest issue in this country, because it delegitimizes the whole country. Once the DOJ, once the law falls, this is what we see, right? There are no property rights anymore. There aren't. They just take your business in New York. It's like, if there's no operation of the law, what does the Constitution matter at all? It doesn't. They just crap all over it. So, yes, one of the things that the American public can do is vote for somebody who's promising to reform the justice system, to specifically attack the propriety of the prosecution. That's what we do here every day. And they say it's an improper consideration for a juror prior to trial. Now, Trump should not be allowed to say that because he's a defendant. So if they want to shut, no, they always say, wait, Trump can just run for office and say whatever he wants? Wait a minute, are you saying the reverse is true? You partisan prosecutors can just indict whomever you want and then they have to shut their mouths? Are you serious? How about no? The First Amendment is the first one for a reason. It says here, as we go on, Trump made a bunch of statements. Molly blew a gasket. Says, likewise, Trump's continuing public statements about witnesses are substantially likely to prejudice a fair trial. In Washington, D.C., with 95% Democrats in Judge Chutkan's courtroom? Are you nuts? In his opposition, Trump makes light of some of his previous attacks on witnesses. Well, they're funny. Some of whom are federal and state government figures in their own right. Who cares? They love their own smell. They love their own stench over there at the Department of Justice. We're government people. We stink so bad, but we love how we stink, and they're just really thrilled about it. They're government figures in their own right. Who cares? What does that make them? Ethical or something? No. He says, stating that such witnesses do not shy away from a hearty public debate and were not intimidated. They say Trump is saying that. Even assuming that certain witnesses are not intimidated by Trump's statements, other witnesses see them and they may be affected by what Trump does and those who are called to testify in the case. So he cannot have an opinion about anything going on. And he can't comment literally about the people he's running against in the primaries like Mike Pence. And regardless of certain witnesses being intimidated or not, Trump should not be permitted to attack or bolster the credibility of any witnesses in a manner that could influence prospective jurors. Which is insane, okay? Because all they can do to fix this problem, rather than attacking Trump's free speech and limiting him what he can say and curtailing his rights to free speech, all they could do is just ask the witnesses, like they do in all of the other trials. Remember in the January 6th trials, when we had a bunch of the jurors who are sitting there in DC, 98.5% Democrat, and they say, well, I do hate Donald Trump, I hate the guy, whatever. Can you set that aside? Can you set aside your hatred for Donald Trump in the E. Jean Carroll case and be a good juror? And the Trump haters go, yes, we can. And the judge goes, perfect. You can still be fair and impartial. So why can't we do that same thing here, Department of Justice? They're the ones who make that argument. They're the ones who come out and say, we can salvage these jurors. There's no bias from the jurors. So in this case, we could ask them the same thing. Hey, Mr. DC juror, we fast forward to March, the day before Super Tuesday when this trial is going to go. Have you heard any Trump's truths? Are you on Truth Social? No? Okay, great. You're a great juror. Come on in. So they can fix this problem by just questioning the jurors. They can fix it on the back end. But that's which is what the government does all the time. But they're not going to ask for that here. Okay. And they know this. And this is dishonest. They know that they can fix this, but they want to shut Trump up. It's not about justice at all. It's so gross. In addition, the defendant here, Trump's arguments essentially concedes that he is trying this case in the public sphere, not in the courtroom, which is precisely the harm that the rule's designed to prevent, some local rule. And yes, that is what is allowed in this country. That's why it is the First Amendment. You don't get to just indict somebody and then they can't comment on the justice system anymore because you indicted them. Every person would indict their opponent. Then you can't talk about me because you're indicted for whatever reason. It is a lunatic type of proposition. But they're not thinking long term. They're thinking in this case, and they only want to shut Trump up. Trump absolutely has to have the right to contest this in the public sphere. You have to be able to talk about illegitimate prosecutions. If the American people think Trump is crazy and that the DOJ is doing a bang-up job and they're amazing, guess what? They'll vote against him. They'll vote for Joe Biden. But they don't want to give Americans that opportunity. They don't want them to even hear about Donald Trump's opinion on what is happening here because they are censors and bullies and cheaters. That's all they do. So they say Trump here is publicly maligning witnesses like Mike Pence and Bill Barr. He can't comment on them. And very intentionally commenting on the specific topics of their testimony at trial. Good. In the context of a pending criminal case and trial, it is not the solution to the defendant's improper statements to encourage a hearty public debate. They say the government is not trying in this case to unconstitutionally silence Trump. And the proposed order gagging him would not do that. He's made a large volume of posts, but he cannot attack known witnesses. And his opposition misstates the facts. In fact, Trump said this, "If you go after me, I'm coming after you." He published that on August 4th, the day after the arraignment. And that's a great reason to vote for him. In fact, I'm glad that he said that. It gives me more enthusiasm for his candidacy because that's exactly what I want. If the Democrats are going to weaponize the Justice Department to go after their political opponents, I'm sorry that they broke the glass, but they broke the glass. They are the people who started this whole unfortunate decline in American political jurisprudence, but we're here. So he should take over the Department of Justice and prosecute all of these people who corrupted it in the first place, who violated the law to create fake investigations into him, and the list goes on and on. So they say Trump complains that the government's motion is not reasonable, it's overly limiting. And they say his statements are just self-serving. And he's trying to deflect responsibility to his own statements. They say here the government is going to prove at trial the following: that Trump's criminal conspiracies targeted in part the January 6th certification, and he capitalized on the widespread mistrust that the defendant was creating. Oh man, we called this one so right months ago. That he was creating pervasive and destabilizing lies about election fraud. Okay? They're going to say Trump, in other words, this conduct is the same conduct that led to January 6th. Okay? So just take what happened on January 6th and just imagine that January 6th didn't happen. Like we're on that path. Like we're on the repeat. We're on the climactic, the roller coaster. We're going up the roller coaster right now for another January 6th is what they're arguing. And Trump's truths are getting us there. All right. And so there's going to be something else. Your Honor, shut him up because he's going to try to steal the election again. Quiet him down or he's going to insurrect the Capitol building again. You've got to stop him now. That's what they're saying. And that makes up the basis of their original charges. It was widespread mistrust. It wasn't one statement. Trump's one statement. There's nothing that he said. But they're going to try to expand the scope of this. They're going to say he said stuff like, "Be there, we'll be wild." He then said a false expectation. Okay, so it's not any one statement, but it's all of his statements together. And he said the crowd was going to be very angry right? They're criminalizing his speech in the original indictment. And he said, after a large crowd, they say a large crowd went in and they attacked the Capitol. So Trump's posts, Trump's tweets, Trump's truths led to this social chaos. The social chaos led to the crime. Therefore, Trump's truths and his speech needs to be silenced to avoid insurrection 2.0. And they say Trump continues in some, the defense, the prosecution trying to gag the defense and gag Trump. They say, in summation, the government has provided the court with a robust factual record to establish that Trump's pervasive public comments cause material prejudice to these proceedings, or at least a substantial likelihood. Our order is narrowly tailored to protect the fair administration of justice. We know you have the power to enter this. You know you have the power to enter this. This is all about jury studies and those focus groups that we talked about. So we'll fast forward through that. And they say here, Your Honor, in conclusion, through both of its proposed orders, the government seeks appropriate processes for protecting the jury pool, which is 95% Democrat in Washington, D.C., and the integrity of this proceeding. The court should grant the government's motion and enter them. Signed by Molly Gaston, highlighter girl, who says that the defense doesn't need to read anything because she created a roadmap of all the evidence for the defense, which is just like one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, ever. And I think even prosecutors would agree with that. But this is the reply from Jack Smith in response to Donald Trump's objection to Jack Smith's request for a gag order. And we'll see what Judge Chutkan does about it. Now, this is the full sandwich. We've got the first motion, Trump's response, and the reply here. So now it's off to Judge Chutkan to decide and see what is appropriate here. And if I had to guess, I think she's probably going to do something here to gag Trump in some way, shape, or form to limit this. And the question is not that, it's what happens next. Because I think Trump has every right and responsibility under the First Amendment to exercise his First Amendment to maximum wingspan in opposition to unconstitutional court orders. And that creates a major conflict. Because then if he continues to do that, she might issue an order to show cause, and things might get a little bit hairy from there. We'll continue to cover, my friends. Thank you for joining us and subscribing as we do. Thank you for checking out robertgovea.com to sign up for our daily newsletter and read all of the show reports there on the website in case you miss anything. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. Now, we've got one final segment on the day. And this one's troubling because it's yet another day when our nation is under attack. We're never going to forget this one. Insurrection in America, my friends. Another tragic and horrific day, this time led by Democrats. And maybe the first time it was too. But this one clearly caught on camera, busted. Jamaal Bowman, you see him here. What's he doing? Oh, pulling a fire alarm in the middle of a very important congressional session when Hakeem Jeffries was in the middle of his magic minute trying to delay the vote on keeping the government open. Congress was in session. We were in middle of one of the most important historic votes. The government's entire function is to stay open. And Jamaal Bowman hit, allegedly, this fire alarm to obstruct the lawful operation of Congress, impede the spending of the government, disorderly conduct everybody in the chambers, and insurrect the Capitol again. And so I encourage you to never, ever forget. And we're going to go through exactly what happened here, including watching what the damage was to AOC. She had heart palpitations or something about it. Jamaal Bowman explained this, saying, I'm just in a hurry. And then, as usual, as the Democrats always do, he decided that his best defense is just to call the Republicans Nazis. So we'll see what he says there. But first, let's set some context around this, okay? I want to get serious about this for a minute because he actually should be prosecuted and he should be charged because, as they say to the J6ers, no one is above the law. And so we want to talk about motive, means, opportunity, damages. We want to talk about the actual law. Because if the DOJ is true to themselves, he should be prosecuted because, in my humble opinion, this was totally intentional. Here's why we know that. Here's what we've got. On Twitter, we know that there were several people commenting about this debacle. The government loves to spend money, and at one point in time, Hakeem Jeffries was using what is called a magic minute, which basically allows him to speak indefinitely. He's allowed to talk for as long as he wants. The Republicans just came up with this continuing resolution. They handed it over to the Democrats. Everybody's racing to vote. And so they say, hold on a minute, let's stall, and blah, blah, blah. So Hakeem Jeffries, he stood up, and we were listening to this live on Locals. And we're like, what's going on here? For our members-only streams in the morning, what's going on here? Because he stood up and he said, I rise today to have a conversation with the American people. So strap in because this may take a while. And we're all like scratching our heads. Wait, what? I thought that he only got 5 minutes. And he didn't. He went on for like 55 minutes, right? And all of this was in order to delay. And this is what he sounded like. And you can hear the Democrats, right? Here's AOC. They're all in there.
Common ground.
Now, one person we don't see in there is Jamaal Bowman.
Republican colleagues. Whenever
and they're just
and wherever
he's just talking slow.
Possible.
No.
However, we will oppose Republican extremism whenever necessary.
Yes.
We will oppose any efforts to cut Social Security and Medicare.
Yeah, please.
We will oppose any efforts to slash public school funding.
Okay, so they did that, right? That's what was happening. They were just buying time. And he just went on and he went on and he went on. And so somebody somewhere did a boo-boo and they accidentally apparently hit a fire alarm or something. Marjorie Taylor Greene was in session, and this is what she said it sounded like in what she saw. Now let's make sure the audio doesn't blow our ears out.
Dream. We will oppose any efforts to undercut public education.
So Hakeem's still in the background there.
Any efforts to walk.
But this is what they saw in Congress. Oh no. So kind of loud, right? Kind of, oh my gosh, a fire alarm in Congress? We've got a critical vote. We've got the budget. It's, you know, the country's going to shut down. Republicans, blah, blah, blah. Marjorie says, nope, fire alarm is going off in canon right as they're trying to delay. Well, something happened. Capitol Police came out and they said, busted, buddy. You are the person who actually flipped the switch on this. And that is Jamaal Bowman. And so Jamaal Bowman, you can see standing by this door. This was a photograph released from the Capitol Police on the same day of the vote, right after the fire alarm. They dropped this one. Jamaal Bowman's press people started communicating about this, saying, oh yeah, you know, he kind of did actually swipe the button. And we were waiting for what the Capitol Police were going to do about this. And they have, in fact, launched an investigation. They said that the U.S. Capitol Police, as of the 2nd, say, we continue to investigate the facts and the circumstances surrounding the fire alarm that resulted in the evacuation of the Cannon House office building. At 12:05 on Saturday, a fire alarm sounded inside the Cannon building, and officers evacuated people from the building, floor by floor, obstructed whatever was going on inside. The fire alarm only sounded in the Canning building, so only that building was evacuated. On the security video, a man was seen trying to exit the door in the Cannon building and then pulling the fire alarm that prompted the investigation. Officers had previously placed signs with clear language that explained the door was secured and marked as an emergency exit only. At approximately 1:30 p.m., the fire marshal determined that there was not a fire and the building was safe. Capitol Police will continue to keep the public updated on the status of the investigation. Now, as is typical with cops, they have two different motivations, you know, that we can sort of see here, or they kind of infer something in here, right? A man was seen trying to exit the door. Jamaal's excuse is going to be, I was just trying to exit the door. That's why I pulled the fire alarm, because I thought it might open the door, right? Which is like an insane thing to say, as we'll soon get to. But seen trying to exit the door and then pulled the fire alarm that prompted the evacuation. Now, we'll go into this because here is what some people are pointing to. This is what the door actually looks like. Now, you can walk up to the door. This is from John Breshnan over on X and says, this is the door that Rep. Bowman used to leave the Cannon building. Okay, this is what it looks like, right? And it's kind of very blocky, like not supposed to go in that door. Here's what it says. Emergency exit only. Push until the alarm sounds for 3 seconds. Then the door unlocks for 30 seconds. Emergency exit only. 3 signs right there. 1, 2, 3. And then you see the actual fire alarm right there on the left. Now you'll also see there looks like a little key thing and maybe a little access panel here, but this is the full image. Lots of red stuff that says don't go out this door. So from that, we see there is a little bit closer up footage, and here is what that looks like. Now, when we zoom in on this image, you see the photograph shows us what the actual fire alarm looks like. So Jamaal Bowman apparently thought that was like a doorknob or something, right? That's the door, probably a door lock. Put your key in or do something. Access panels, which are locked, and the fire switch, which is very clearly labeled as a fire switch. Not that complicated. And so here is one final image from that scene. And you ask yourself, what is going on there? Now, it does look like he has something in his hand. Now, some people were saying that maybe that is a sign. Maybe that was one of the signs that was there. Or maybe this is a document that he was bringing into court or bringing into Congress with him. But he's clearly hitting the switch on that thing, isn't he? Now, people are asking some interesting questions about this because, as we know, Mr. Jamaal Bowman used to work at a high school. He was the principal at a Cornerstone Academy for Social Action, right? He was the principal there. A lot of kids. Hey, man, I don't know about your high school, but sometimes when the fire alarm went off, it wasn't such a bad thing. You're like, oh, gosh, we get to go outside. What are we listening to? Geometry here? Oh, gosh. Let's get outside, man. But it's a big no-no. Nobody pulls the fire alarm, okay? You have to be some kind of derelict to do that. Don't you know the fire department comes and they'll use their axe to chop your little hands off if you do it again? So here's how Cornerstone, when you're a child, punishes you. So here, this came over from John Hassan, son of Haas, over on the X, says calling 911, this is the consequence, signaling or setting off an automatic signal indicating the presence of fire is prohibited. This includes making statements like an emergency exists. And if you do this, suspended 10 days. Busted, man. And if you really are a problem, and we know that Jamaal Bowman has gotten into it with other people. Like he was doing the old peck to Thomas Massey at one point. Long-term suspension, buddy. You're expelled. Get out of here for being that bad kid in school. That's in high school. Now, of course, Congress is a lot dumber than high school kids. So I don't know, maybe that's a little too serious for them, but I think they do eat Lunchables there. That's probably true too. But so anyway, that's what's going on. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene and others are saying this is like an actual crime. Okay, not in addition to, let's not forget the January 6 crimes, which we'll talk about here in a minute, courtesy of Julie Kelly. But there are other crimes that exist. You're not allowed to just pull fire alarms because you're trying to get out of a door. It doesn't matter if you are a dumb congressperson either. Here is what one representative said. Mike Waltz, he said, this is a crime in D.C. False alarms, false reports, it shall be unlawful for any person or persons to willfully or knowingly give a false alarm within D.C. If you do it, misdemeanor and potential prison, but not more than 6 months jail. And it should be brought by the District of Columbia prosecutors. Is that going to happen? Unlikely. So that is from Mike Waltz. And other congresspeople are calling for prosecution. In fact, this is what Marjorie Taylor Greene was saying about it over on the interwebs. She says, Jamaal Bowman pulled the alarm in the Cannon building this afternoon and interrupted, some might say insurrected, the official proceedings of the House as Republicans work to keep the government open. I'm calling on the DOJ to prosecute him using the same law they used to prosecute J6 defendants for interfering with an official proceeding. The Democrats literally will do anything to shut our government down because billions aren't going to their favorite country called Ukraine. Here's Marjorie.
No, I want to talk about Jamaal Bowman pulling the fire alarm.
Insurrecting
Capitol
Congress.
Police are questioning him right now because it's on video. That he violated the exact same law that January 6th defendants are being prosecuted for every single day. He violated the exact same law, interrupting an official proceeding, and by pulling a fire alarm. It's on video, and the Capitol Police have the information.
Did you see?
This is outrageous. They have it on video.
Have you seen the video?
I haven't seen the video yet, but I'm going to be demanding it. I'm demanding that the Department of Justice prosecute him the same way they've prosecuted January 6th defendants.
Good.
It's the exact same law.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Exact same law. This is outrageous. He's a Democrat representative. Here's what happened. Catherine Clark, the whip, called the motion to adjourn, and within, I don't know, a few minutes, it was literally right after that, Jamaal Bowman pulls a fire alarm while the vote was happening. You guys, this is unprecedented. The Democrats will do anything to make sure it's shut down because billions of dollars are not going to their favorite country, Ukraine. I mean, you guys really, so Olivia Beavers has tweeted it. This is the law. This is the law. Otherwise obstructs, influences, or impedes any official proceeding or attempts to do so shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. This is the law that January 6th defendants are being
at least
locked up, they're rotting in jail, and they're being prosecuted every single day. Non-violent offenders are being put in jail for this.
You took a video over there. Did you happen to catch like a part of it? Or I saw you posted a video on Twitter. Did you catch a part of it?
Look, it's being reported everywhere. You can ask go ask the Capitol Police about it. I'm demanding the video. House admin has already reported it. They have seen the video. It's just unbelievable. He's a representative breaking the law.
Insurrecting Congress during a very important time, okay? They keep telling us that during the peaceful transition of power, we were on the brink of our entire government closing down. And they tell us what a big problem it is when our government closes down. Like, I don't know, planes going to fall out of the sky, satellites, houses exploding. I was planning to wake up on Sunday just like in a tent somewhere. You know, I didn't know where I was going to be because the government was going to shut down. But he insurrected it during that monumental moment, historic moment, many might say, and he did it. Quite frankly, I think he probably was colluding with other Democrats, if I can be honest about it. I want to know what Chuck Schumer knows. I want to know actually what Mitch McConnell knows. I want to know if there were any Democrats in the Senate that were involved in this. Where was Nancy Pelosi? I know Hakeem was in on this thing. What was happening here? RICO charges, RICO conspiracy case to get to the bottom of it. And in fact, what I actually would really like to see is a select committee. I mean, let's be real. Republicans need a select committee, and they can only appoint 2 Democrats, and the Republicans get to pick whoever they are. And that way they can get to the bottom of this. So that was what Marjorie Taylor Greene was calling for. And we've got Julie Kelly here, who's going to give us some background on why this charge is actually legitimate and valid. And if you haven't signed up for Julie Kelly yet over on her Substack, I would encourage you to do that. She's doing great work over there. I just signed up today, although I'm not signed in right now. She's at declassified.live, declassified.live. It's her new project. And so I'd encourage you to go sign up and subscribe to her. I did. She wrote this today. Yes, Jamaal Bowman deserves the January 6th treatment. She's right. No one's above the law, okay? We didn't set those rules. No one's above the law. And I don't want to hear about congressional immunity either, okay? You don't get immunity when you breach the peace or commit crimes within the operation of Congress. So, fair game. Says congressional Democrats are coming to the defense of their unhinged colleague Bowman. We'll hear from AOC and others in a minute. Okay, I got to sign in. And we're not going to read the full thing here because I'm going to send you over there to read the rest of it. Here it is. Marjorie Taylor Greene posted a video to report the fire alarm. We listened to that one. And Bowman released a statement that we'll read. But this is where he should be prosecuted. Many others have been prosecuted 320 have been charged from the J6 cases with obstruction of an official proceeding. Okay, that is a January 6th charge. Donald Trump has also been charged with that, obstruction of an official proceeding. The DOJ justifies the charge. They say that those involved in the protest contributed to delaying the vote, right? That's all it was, delaying the vote, because they were back in there like 4 hours later. Mike Pence gavelled it in. So it was just a delay. The indictments say all the time they were trying to stop or delay or hinder Congress, specifically Congress's certification of the vote of the Electoral College. Prosecutors charged a bunch of people. Chansley got charged. Perna got charged. Proud Boys, Oath Keepers got charged. They're going to prison for years, decades. And here, Bowman did the same thing. He actually did interfere with the proceedings. January 6th, the delay was less than 6 hours. It was very short. Same thing happened here. And Julie Kelly goes on for some more analysis there, and I'll leave you to go read the rest of the piece from her. But she says here, at trial, jurors have been presented with a remarkably low burden of proof. Here's what the Proud Boys got in their case. So think about whether this applies to Jamaal Bowman. Was it an official proceeding? Does it check the element box? Of course, they were an official proceeding. Got that. Was it done corruptly? Did Jamaal Bowman try to corruptly obstruct the official proceeding? You got to find a couple things, 4 elements. 1, the defendant obstructed or attempted to obstruct an official proceeding. Obviously, that was done. Intended to obstruct, did actually obstruct, intended to obstruct. So he actually intended to pull it and then did pull it. That he did it knowingly with awareness of the probable effect of the conduct. Okay, so by pulling it, does he know what's going to happen? And 4th, that he acted corruptly, right? Those are the elements. Acting corruptly, according to the government, Julie Kelly tells us, requires the use of, quote, unlawful means, which might be illegally pulling a firearm. So the same charges, okay, that Trump has, the same charges that the J6ers got, the Proud Boys and others, easily can charge him and hit those same elements. Now, we'll see what his excuse is for all of this. Now he's playing dumb, but I want to be mindful that this was an insurrection with some serious consequences, okay? AOC actually suffered some pretty serious injuries and attack from this ordeal. She posted this on her Twitter. She says, today in a nutshell, AOC's official government account, okay, in case you're wondering. She said, oh, America, guess what? Life's hard in Congress. I had high heart rate and Apple's warning her. Your heart rate rose above 120 beats per minute while you seemed inactive sitting on your butt for 10 minutes starting at 12:11. Yeah, about the same time the alarm went off, right? Yeah, so she's sitting there and she's like, oh, I'm getting attacked again. Insurrection again. Are these Trumpers again? Whoa. And she's faking being attacked. I think she was in the other building on January 6th anyway, so you weren't even there. Hiding under a desk, duck and cover or whatever she's going to make up. And she also said it's a loud environment. So to be perfectly fair, I empathize with AOC. I think she is a victim of a crime. And I am very concerned about what that slight trauma that she endured, what kind of damages that caused to her heart, because, she's probably done a lot of other things that, might have, impacted her health over these last few years. So I'm concerned about this high heart rate for her. And I'm not a medical doctor or anything, but, talking about damages in an insurrection, that might be one, that could be a problem for her. So I don't really know if she's going to have long-term consequences from this. Certainly PTSD, probably counseling, probably trauma. And so I feel bad for her. And hopefully she gets recovery after a long trial and justice. She also might have ear damage, okay? Sound levels hit 90 decibels. 30 minutes could cause temporary hear loss. So she might not be able to hear even more things like good points and intelligent comments. She'll just not hear those either. So it's going to be a very complicated thing for her. I hope she has a speedy recovery. I think that the monetary damages and the restitution that Jamaal Bowman owes her is substantial. So we'll see. And of course, we documented this on our Twitter over on the X. So that is what's happening here, right? Real actual damages here. And the question is, what does Jamaal Bowman have to say about any of this? Is he, you know, apologizing for insurrecting America, or what is the status? In fact, they did release a press statement. Jamaal Bowman posted this. Let's take a look at the actual statement, not too long. He says, for immediate release, insurrection response team, Jamaal Bowman says, all right, America, I want to personally clear up confusion surrounding today's events. Today, as I was rushing to make the vote, I came to a door that is usually open for votes, but today it would not open. Oh, it was just locked. I bet. I am embarrassed to admit that I activated the fire alarm. Oh no, mistakenly thinking it would open the door. I regret this and sincerely apologize for any confusion this caused. But I want to be very clear. This was not me in any way trying to delay any vote. It was the exact opposite. I was trying urgently to get to a vote, which I ultimately did, and I joined my colleagues in a bipartisan effort to keep our government open. Okay, so it sounds like that was a mistake. Okay, so like you made a mistake and you should not be charged because you made a mistake? Huh, that's curious. I think other people on January 6th also made mistakes, and many of them made the mistake of listening to cops who told them to just come in the building or stepped aside and allowed them to walk right in the building. Okay, so they made a mistake of trusting that the Capitol Police would tell them that it was not lawful to enter. They made a mistake. And they still went to prison, many of them. So I don't really care about his mistake. Sorry. I also met after the vote with the Sergeant at Arms at their request and explained what had happened. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Many other J6ers explained what happened and said, I'm sorry, it was a mistake. I got caught up in something. I was overwhelmed. I was in a rush. I was caught up in emotion, just like he was. My hope is that no one will make more than this than it was. Sorry, buddy. Nope. Prison. Prison, not expulsion and suspension from school. Prison. No one is above the law. No one. I am working very hard every day. It's like, so what? Okay. Including today, to do my job and to do it well and to deliver for my constituents. Well, you're doing a pretty bad job because you're tripping fire alarms. And he finishes this with peace and love. Peace and love. No, 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 no. Criminal arrest and immediate imprisonment. DC gulags because of the standards that your party has set, not the other side. So that is what he stated. Now, he was contacted and he explained this from his perspective. I was just in a rush, says the insurrectionist.
Do you still stand by your statement that the fire alarm was an accident?
You know, I don't know why this has gotten so much attention. I was literally just in a rush to go vote, man. That's all it was.
Mm-hmm. Are you afraid of any repercussions either from leadership or from legally from Capitol Police?
I mean, listen, I take responsibility for what I did, you know, but like I said, I was in a rush to go vote, and, you know, the investigation will sort everything else out.
Have you talked to Jeffries about it?
Oh, yeah, of course. That's day one, yes.
How was that conversation?
Well, I got to keep that between me and the leader, so I'm not going to share that publicly. Yeah, but we've been in touch with each other.
Okay. It's just a little bit of a rush, so you just start pulling fire alarms in the middle of the same moment that you need more time when your people are literally delaying Congress. Very, very curious mistake. Even MSNBC is having a tough time with this one.
Last thing I want to mention, and then we're going to take a quick break. There was a mention of Jamaal Bowman, Congressman Jamaal Bowman, and the pulling of some sort of fire alarm. And I just want to read for you some of the reporting so you understand what actually went on there.
Some sort of.
There were some reports that began to emerge about Representative Bowman, who was seen pulling some sort of fire alarm in the Cannon House office building earlier today. We got a statement on that. Saying Congressman Bowman did not realize he would trigger a building alarm as he was rushing to make an urgent vote. The congressman regrets any confusion, just to clarify some things on that, because I know there was likely some folks kind of scratching their heads wondering what it was they were asking
we were.
Speaker McCarthy about.
Yeah, we were scratching our heads about that one because it felt like it was a little bit strange. And, you know, some sort of fire alarm, like some sort of mysterious fire alarm that nobody's ever seen before that can be very confusing. You know, it might look like a doorknob. It might look like a cell phone. It might look like a sandwich. Nobody really knows, but it can be confusing. And it's an amorphous figure. Not really. This is George Santos in Congress explaining how it works.
Hi, boys and girls. This is Congressman George Santos. This here is a fire alarm.
Wow.
If you lift this part here and pull this down, you trigger an alarm. Oh! Don't do it. Stay good, kids.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that complicated 13-second lesson there, Santos. Even he can figure it out, all right? So it doesn't look like a switch. I don't think it's going to open a door. I don't think something's going to pop out of this wall when you pull the fire alarm. Okay, it's a fire alarm. It's pretty obvious what it does. It doesn't open doors. Here is what McCarthy said about it after it happened.
I was really appalled of watching Democrats' actions today to delay it to get to a shutdown. But when we found that an individual elected to Congress would pull a fire alarm, that's a new low.
Totally.
We watched how people have been treated if they've done something wrong in this Capitol. It'll be interesting to see how he is treated on what he was trying to obstruct when it came to the American public.
Yeah, Kev, he was trying to obstruct America and your House of Representatives. So hopefully your Sergeant at Arms is digging into this thing and there are repercussions coming. Now, the White House got needled about this a bit by our friend Peter Doocy. Here's what that sounded like.
Would President Biden ever try to get out of a meeting by pulling a fire alarm?
Are you talking about something specifically?
A Democratic member of Congress pulled a fire alarm around a series of votes. No fire. Is that appropriate?
What I can tell you is I'm not spoken to the president about this. And so just not going to comment. I would leave it up to, I know there's a House process moving forward right now. I'll leave it to the House.
Okay.
All right. So you knew that was coming. Not too much interesting there. Now, AOC is supporting Jamaal Bowman. She's going to be defending him because while she'll screech and shout about all the J6ers, here, somebody on her own team who triggered a delay by pulling a fire alarm, she's going to come up with a bunch of excuses for him, and even Jake Tapper's not buying it. Now, this is what it sounds like.
There was an interesting moment over the weekend when your New York colleague, Congressman Jamaal Bowman, and he's under investigation for this now after Capitol Police say he pulled a fire alarm in one of the House office buildings. Democrats were trying to delay a final vote on the bill. There he is pulling the fire alarm. He says it was an accident. He thought pulling the alarm would open a door based on the fact that the doors to his right there were locked, and there was a sign that he said he was, I think someone said it was confusing. I'll be honest, it doesn't really make sense to me, his explanation. Have you talked to him? What's going on there?
I mean, listen, I think if you actually do see some of the photos of the signs, I think there's something to be said about the government's about to shut down. There's a vote clock that's going down. The exits that are normally open in that building were suddenly closed.
So you pulled a fire alarm?
So what I am here to say is that House administration and U.S. Capitol Police and Jamaal Bowman are an active, and he's fully participating in saying there was a misunderstanding. But what I do think is important to raise is the fact that Republicans, representatives like Nicole Malliotakis and others, immediately moved to file motions to censure, motions to expel.
He obstructed you, AOC, and he caused you to have heart palpitations. And your eardrums are probably exploded.
Before there has even been conversations that are finished to even see if there was a misunderstanding here. But what they did while they did that, what they did not do was to commit to the same when George Santos was actually found guilty after a thorough investigation of 13 federal charges. He's indicted on everything from wire.
He's been indicted, okay? He's been indicted. Okay, so that's fine. Like, they always say this. They do this with Trump too. Yeah, but Trump. And then they like point to all Trump's 91 charges. And we're like, yeah, we know you indicted him 4 times. You want to do it again? All we're asking is indict your side if there isn't a double standard. But guess what? There is a double standard, which is why only one side gets indicted.
Fraud to actual lying of House investigators. And they have been buddying up and giggling with him on the House floor, and they are protecting someone who has lied to the American people, lied to the United States House of Representatives, lied to congressional investigators, but they're filing a motion to expel a member who, in a moment of panic, was trying to escape a vestibule. Give me a break. And so the idea that there is somehow any kind of equivalence to someone who is actively trying to clear up a situation that he himself admits he's embarrassed. He released a statement last night. He apologized. And they are protecting someone who has not only committed wire fraud, not only defrauded veterans, not only lied to congressional investigators, but is openly gloating about it, is absolutely humiliating to the Republican caucus.
No.
I think that
your side,
they should really check their own values.
Yeah. All right, Juicy Booty over there is getting pretty excited for Jamaal Bowman, but even Jake Tapper's like, what? What are you nuts? Are you serious? Is that what you're saying to me right now? He pulled a fire alarm because he was confused? All right, so, the obvious initial statement from Jamaal didn't go so well, so now they are delivering new talking points, and one of those talking points is exactly what you'd expect. Guess what? You know what it is. Republicans are Nazis. There you go. Yeah, there it is. That's, pretty usual statement, standard stuff here. Jamaal Bowman is circulating a list of talking points to fellow Democrats in a bid to stop the burgeoning GOP push to punish him after not just setting off a house alarm, okay, obstructing the lawful operation of Congress during a critical historic vote to keep the government open. The New York Democrats press secretary sent a memo on Monday to all House Democratic offices requesting they defend Bowman for the flap over the alarm. The flap. It's an insurrection, which has prompted Republican pushes to sanction him. Politico got a copy of it. And here is what it looks like. Here are the talking points from Bowman's team. And they say, here is what happened, and here are the suggested talking points. And they also have different tweets. Okay, so this is how the Democrats operate. It's always fun when you get to see behind the curtain a bit. And usually they all are silent until this memo goes out. So they'll all start talking now. Here's what happened, Democrats, in case you're too stupid to figure it out on your own. On his way to votes today, Congressman Jamaal Bowman was trying to leave the office building in Cannon through the exit he regularly uses for votes. He was rushing to the House floor, right? This is all a lawyer's statements now. Okay, so now it's regularly uses. Did you hear that? He uses it all the time. How many times? He was rushing to the House floor to prevent himself from missing a vote. And due to the confusing signage, all of which said close, 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 emergency exit only, don't get out of here, and an honest mistake, he pulled the alarm in an attempt to open the door. So is he dumb? Like, do they need to explain? They need to explain that then. Like, can he read? Can he read signs? Like, can he actually read at all? Because the sign said a bunch of things on there. Can he read those words? Because it's dumb. If not, he was not attempting to delay the vote that he intended to vote yes on, and was simply just trying to rush to the Capitol. Henceforth, MAGA Republicans have used this as an opportunity to distract from their attempt to shut the government down. Well, he shut the Congress down. And to minimize January 6th insurrectionists. It's literally the same charge, okay? You charge them for obstructing and interfering with the proceeding, disorderly conduct, all the things. He did the same thing. He says what the congressman has said. So you stupid Democrats, get your talking points and just regurgitate this. Just say, I was just trying to get to my vote. That door, the door that's usually open wasn't. I didn't mean to cause confusion. I didn't know it was going to trip the whole building. I thought it would help me open the door. Yeah, so maybe it is just, he's just dumb then. Okay. So here are suggested talking points. Now, here's what the Democrats are supposed to vomit out of their mouths on the different talk shows. They say, it is an extreme reach on the part of MAGA Republicans to assert that Bowman intended to harm or destruct anyone or thing. Well, He caused a big delay, which harms people's productivity. He caused thousands of dollars of damage, okay, in terms of lost productivity. Buildings were emptied. It was a very costly thing to do. And he destructed, possibly, AOC's eardrums along with everybody else's in the building. They say, but the exact opposite is true. He was trying to do his job, and he did so poorly. Now, look, if you've been in the Capitol complex on a weekend, you know there's only one or two ways to get in and out, and it causes confusion for staffers and members alike. But because of last-minute votes caused by Republican incompetence, they were the ones who presented something to you guys, and surprise bill drop, not all exits were staffed like usual, and the signage made it even more confusing when it says emergency exit, which apparently he can't read. Now, especially when you're in a rush after Republicans drop the bill 15 minutes before the vote, the signage on the door is confusing. Talking points say, it's clear that my colleague, this is what the Democrats who can't think for themselves are supposed to say. It's clear that my colleague Bowman was simply rushing to the floor to cast his vote to prevent a shutdown and support working class families. Which is really the same thing that a January 6er could say, right? They were rushing to protest lawfully and peacefully to stop the government from enacting a rigged election, or they were protesting to stop whatever, right? It's the same thing. Just because you were rushed and because you made a mistake doesn't mean that you're innocent, according to their standards. Now, look, I'm in favor, by the way, of giving all of the January 6ers the benefit of the doubt. I've been saying that for many years now. And so I think it's only fair. We can let Jamaal Bowman go free, and he doesn't have to be prosecuted for this if they exonerate every single January 6er who was charged with this similar conduct. Wipe the charges clean. They made mistakes. Bowman made a mistake. I can live with that. Otherwise, Bowman goes to prison. Voting doesn't occur in the Cannon office building. It only occurs in the Capitol. The alarm going off didn't interrupt our business on the floor today in the slightest. That's not what AOC said. That's not what Marjorie Taylor Greene said. So that seems like a fake talking point, okay? People were evacuated. House Republicans are obviously trying to distract from the fact that they cannot govern. Well, they did here, and they nearly shut down the federal government for no reason. You did, Jamaal. They signed a continuing resolution, unfortunately for all of us. So they tell their idiot Democrats, say this when the MSNBC calls. Just say this. Don't think, just say this. I believe Bowman when he says this was an accident. I stand with Bowman. Maybe get bumper stickers or start a cause. Bowman's life matters. Republicans need to instead focus their energy on the Nazi members of their party. Do you see this? Nazi members of their party before anything else. Hey, last I heard, the Canadians had the Nazis up in their parliament, okay? And they were applauding them on behalf of Ukraine, which is what your party supports, Jamaal. So anytime they're under attack, they just escalate. He didn't say racist or anything. He says Nazi members of their party when Justin Trudeau was up there applauding Nazis in Canada. Anyways, so there are multiple insurrectionist supporters in Congress. I didn't insurrect anybody. You did. And more who actually supported the coup and Trump's big lie. That's what they should focus on. Instead, they're trying to focus on Bowman to minimize January 6th. I know what we're focused on, preventing a government shutdown and childcare. And they say, hey, if you want to pull articles from something, look at these lefties. Go to MediaMatters.org and get this link. Here's some good article to pull from. And if you want to quote tweet these people. Okay, so they're saying, hey, drop these talking points and quote tweet Santos or Troy Neal's Republicans or Maliotakis or Thomas Massey. Tweet those guys and go back against their talking points. And so that's Jamaal Bowman. And man, you know they're in big trouble when he starts calling people Nazis, right? That's how you know he's busted. They're in trouble. He did it. He pulled it. He knew why he pulled it. He did it intentionally. He caused AOC to have heart palpitations. And so now it is time for justice. No one is above the law in America. And so we'll be waiting here patiently from the indictment from the DOJ for America's latest insurrection. caused by Jamaal Bowman's attack on the Capitol. We're going to continue to cover this one, my friends. Hopefully the Republicans get to the bottom of it. Thank you for subscribing wherever you're watching this. Thank you for checking out our website, robertgovea.com, and signing up for our daily newsletter. You'll get access to the mind map. You'll get all the reports delivered to your inbox. That way we never miss each other, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends, we covered some good ground today. The new insurrection, this time by the Democrats instead of the FBI, which was really kind of the same thing. Jack Smith begs Judge Chutkan for a gag order. He'll probably get some of it. We'll see. And the new Trump civil judge posing for Donald Trump's civil trial. But Donald Trump had a pretty good day and an outcome on the end of that. The statute of limitations sounds like it will be applying to 80% of the original charges in the complaint brought by Letitia Tishy James. And we're going to continue to cover all of it, my friends. But now it is time to hear from you and to see what you have to say about this over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We're going to jump into your super chats from YouTube, Rumble, and Locals, and all across the X and everywhere. My friends, quick programming note. We are traveling this week. So the rest of this week, the schedule is going to be wonky. So make sure you are subscribed and make sure your notification bell is on. I'm not planning to do live streams the remainder of the week because I will not be here. And that means we will do some pre-recorded videos, might have some later night streams. I'm going to be in a conference, so I'm kind of out of pocket full day. But I am bringing some gear. And so I am planning to record either before the conference or after the conference or during lunch or whatever. And so we'll stay in touch. But the schedule is going to be wonky the rest of the week. So just make sure that you are checking back in here. If you're going to be here tomorrow at 3 p.m., we will not be live here tomorrow at 3 p.m. So just be cognizant of that. I am going to miss you. It is going to be a great conference because we are going to be learning a lot about YouTube. It's actually a video conference for other creators. And I'm hopeful that I can learn a bunch of good stuff and come back here and reincorporate it into what we're doing. And so I'm going to be sharing a bunch about it. I kind of want to vlog the whole experience. And so we'll be posting updates, but a little bit of a change for the rest of the week. So just keep that in mind. We'll be looking forward to it, but should be fun. We're going to go see Texas, my friends. We're going to go see Texas. So Curtis Bartle is in the house. And thank you, Curtis, for joining us and donoing one membership to our friend Glenn Croy. Glenn Croy coming in courtesy of Curtis Bartle. Thank you, Curtis, for dropping that one in for us. And let's see what else we've got here today. Okay, I'm scrolling. Should have done this earlier. There it is, Curtis. What's up, Curtis? All right, we got Zoji's here. Hey, what's up, Zoji? Zoji's been a member on Locals for over a year. Look at that. So we've got Zoji saying, hey, thank you, Rob. Found you during Chauvin and Rittenhouse. You are my brother now. Thank you, Zoji. Man, I know what that means. I know what that means, brother. So thank you for that. That is a huge compliment, and I appreciate that. And thank you for being here and joining us. And I hope you're having a beautiful, beautiful day and a beautiful new week and a beautiful new month. It's a fresh new month, baby. It's October. We got Jameson says everyone should read the Martin versus Mott 1827 case. 2012, Jameson, a lawyer in the house. Good to see you, Jameson. Sounds like a good one. Hey, the Chugi Show live says be back when you aren't reading too much into that video. Be back when you aren't reading too much into that video. Okay, well, hopefully you're back. That's from the Chugi Show. Been a member for 1 month. Sounds like enjoyed that video analysis a lot. Since really enjoyed it. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, the Chugi Show. Make sure you watch it a few more times. I'm sure you'll appreciate it. Patrick Parker says, these people need to stop this BS. And that's from Patrick Parker, who's been a member for 12 months. Patrick, amazing, 12 months. Super grateful to have you. A full year. That is a baby and a quarter, all lumped into one. Patrick, thanks for being here for the year. Happy anniversary to us. We've got here, General Kale says, this is why they push multicultural democracy. They'll tell you it's our greatest strength, but what it really is divide and conquer. Yeah, it's kind of the cultural relativism, maybe, is what you're talking about too, General Kale. It's hard to have a society that agrees on things like economics and tax policy, if we don't even have a society that can agree on genders and pronouns? Does that make sense? So we just can't, we'll never agree to agriculture policy if we can't agree what's the difference between a cow and a bull. You know what I mean? So that's from General Kale. Good to see you. Cindy Banks says, Rob, why isn't this case malicious prosecution? Well, so it's a civil case, so it's not an actual criminal prosecution, but you can make a similar type of ethical complaint against Letitia James. So one reason is it's a civil charge, and Letitia James, as the Attorney General of the state, has the authority and the wherewithal, the jurisdiction as the Attorney General to investigate fraud. And that's what you'll find, different state attorney generals do. And like one of the most common examples I use with AGs is like gyms. You might see this in your local state, like local attorney general files a complaint against some gym entity for bad cancellation policies. Like they won't cancel you, right? They got to go in, cancel, call somebody, give them a kidney, and then they'll cancel you. Like, so they have, they can go investigate fraud. And I think that she's within the purview of what she's allowed to do. It's just, and it's in New York. So who's Trump going to complain to? The New York State Bar? They're going to say, are you crazy? Letitia's doing a great job. Thanks, Cindy. Good question. Posh Hawk says, we all need to pray hard for this country. I agree with you, Posh. And for each other. And for each other. And with those prayers and with God's help, all is possible. Thanks, Posh. We got this one from Mark Mills in the house. Mark, no question, but a very nice dono. And you're a member as well. So Mark Mills in the house, I appreciate you. Thanks for your support, my friend. Here, over on Rumble, we got Jane Catherine Berry says, here's what really happened, all right. Bowman hadn't eaten for 3 days. Says, hadn't eaten for 3 days. On his way to get a Subway sandwich, he was jumped by 2 Nigerian bodybuilders. In a panic, he pulled the alarm, and the security cameras were hacked by the Russians. Yeah, when we get those camera footage, I wonder what the audio is going to sound like. Are we going to hear Jamaal Bowman or his attackers shouting, "This is MAGA country"? Is that going to be in the audio? The drive-by footlongs. Jack Smith loves footlongs. Maybe he was getting 2 footlongs for him and Jack Smith. I don't know. Funny comment, Jane. We got this one from Mustafa. Says, Robert Govea for Senate. We'll wait. It's going to be a spicy campaign here in Arizona. Carrie Lake's running again, I think, or running this time. And it's going to be a fun one. Should be a spicy one, Mustafa. We'll see. Maybe one day. We'll see. We got this one from 51K. Says, what was the benefit for delaying the vote? I think it was just it was a procedural thing, and they wanted more time to read it or something like that. I don't know the ultimate reason, but I guess more time to process it, more time to negotiate it. It's all procedural stuff. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe if you delay it enough, you can't do it in time or something. I don't know. But all I know is that Hakeem was speaking for 53 minutes and fire alarms were going off. So that's how I impute intentionality there, 51K. Good question. We got this one from Sweet Revenge. Says, former U.S. Fort Clayton in Panama is flying the WEF flag, the World Economic Forum flag. Flying in Panama? Doesn't sound good. Don't the Chinese own that anyways now these days? Thanks, Sweet Revenge. We got A Bad Poet says, we need a map with the alarm, him inside the building, and how far inside the vote was taking place. Didn't the J6ers have guides at least to help? Well, the Capitol Police, I think, were showing Jacob Chansley around. They were like walking him around into the room. So I don't know if any Capitol Police helped this insurrection like they did the last one. Or I don't know if the FBI was involved in this one either. But we know they were involved in the last one, that's for sure. Salty Sarge says, is Jamaal related to Hank Johnson, the congressman who thought Guam was also going to flip over? Yeah, it was going to, capsize because it's too much weight on the front of the island. Is it going to capsize? Yeah, they are not sending their best. They are not sending their best. I'm not sure that Jamaal Bowman can even read, actually, now that I think about it, and I just realized that. Maybe he can't read, which is why he couldn't see fire. He can't tell what it says. Or he can't read the signs that say emergency exit only. He's like, I don't know. Somebody better show him a Harry Potter book or something. All right, Curtis Bartle says, the House is Rocktobering, LOL. Thanks, Rob and mods. From Curtis Bartle. Whoa, 15 months, man. That's almost 2 babies. From Curtis Bartle. The House is Rocktobering, LOL. Thanks, Robs. And thanks to the mods in the house. Beautiful mods in the house. The best mods. We got this one from Catania Mama Italia. 7 months, almost to a baby. Says the vote was delayed due to the evacuation. That's what I thought. I thought that they were lying in their talking points. So they actually did obstruct Congress. We actually did obstruct Congress. We got some, looks like some photos are in the house. Whoa, what is this? So Social Viking over on our locals. What is this, man? 3 polar bears are by the house today. Enjoy, everyone. What? Where's your house? Where's your house, Social Viking? This is your house? You got polar bears hanging outside your house? Oh my goodness, man. Those are cool. That is such a cool thing. Man, be careful, be safe. Hopefully you got a telephoto lens over there. Polar bears outside your house. Man, that's a whole different kind of bear. And here we got another real good boy in the house. We got Indoctrination over on local says Ivar thinks it's a modern civil war on the horizon. Look at this real handsome fella over here. Let's get this one clipped. Come on. There it is. Boom. Look at this handsome fella. Hang in there, my friend. We're going to win. Don't worry about it. I know there are stressful times out there, but we're going to go for a walk real soon. Your owner's going to take you for a walk real soon, and it's all going to be okay. Indoctrination's going to take you out there. We're going to survive. We're going to win. Just hang tight. Don't forget to register to vote. All right. Jig is here, says, good thing Jamaal Bowman never learned what a fire alarm was. In all those years, he was a school principal. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they had different fire alarms there or something that he was more familiar with. I don't know. Jake Tapper. So he pulled a fire alarm? Are you nuts? Yeah, that's exactly right. Knox Bierman is in the house. Says, just got home from court. I need to catch up. What's up, Knox? Hey, hopefully you had a great day in court. You're out there, man, doing some heavy lifting in the courtrooms. Shout out to Knox Bierman. Courting it up. Hopefully you had a great day. And you're out there securing justice for your clients, which I'm sure you are. Thank you, Knox. Good to see you. Glad you made it. My friends, thank you for those very generous donos. Very much appreciate those. Let's say hello to our friends on X before we wrap it up and go over to our members only after party. And YouTube members, if you want to join us on our members only after party, then you can do that. Just grab the Telegram link in the community tab section on YouTube, and we'll see you in the members only after party here right after the show. And we got some comments over on the X. And how many people are watching? 6 people. Oh my goodness, it's incredible. That's almost 10. Who do we have? We got Danny McWilliams says, Trump's civil trial is the scariest trial in the past 100 years. To give you an idea, if I value my home as that judge valued Mar-a-Lago, my home is worth $175. Good comment, Danny. And you're right about this, Danny. See, there's a lot more, in some situations, right, civil law can actually be a little bit more nefarious than criminal law. And I should have made this point earlier, but in criminal law, like, you have a lot of protections, a lot of constitutional protections, right? Because they're about to incarcerate you. Like, so our Constitution specifically talks about criminal law a lot. But what happens when you have civil law that's almost being used as a criminal substitute that doesn't have the same criminal protections that you'd find in a criminal case? You can really abuse the civil law. And I think that's exactly what's happening here. And Letitia James is defining a new status of this, a new epoch of civil lawfare in America, using the civil law almost as a criminal law to bypass the protections in the criminal courts. Fred says, when anyone talks about the First Amendment, they say, you can't yell fire in a theater, but I guess you can pull a fire alarm in Congress as long as you're a Democrat. Yeah, as long as you're a Democrat. Dreamy says, psychopathic X. Absolutely correct. Exactly, right? That was Letitia James. She absolutely looked like that. I'm glad you feel me on that one, Dreamy. Danny says, hey, a judge undervaluing property and it turns into legal precedent Very scary. O'Nelly says Bowman calling Republicans Nazis. Would this be construed as hate speech? No, because he's a Democrat and they agree. The people who would make the hate speech determination agree that Republicans are Nazis. What's up, O'Nelly? Thanks for the great comment. Drill Sergeant's here. What's up, Ultra Mega? Snarky Retiree says, I can't wait for Trump's pronunciation of Judge Engoran's name as he repeats it more and more frequently during the trial. It's like a drinking game or something. And Bowman was in a hurry. He just came for Subway where two men yelled, MAGA country. Yeah, that was the same comment. That's too funny. Great minds think alike, as they say. So that's too funny. All right, my friends, that is what we got over on the X. Now we're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. YouTube members, join us on Telegram. We're going to leave YouTube, but click the community tab, grab the Telegram link. We'll see you over there. We also want to say shout out to our friends at Field of Greens. Don't forget to get your Field of Greens and use code Robert when you check out. I want to thank the mods and the meme smiths for modding down the fort for us and keeping things nice and beautiful and orderly. Big thanks to Vienticus Prime, our friend K Bean, a Just Cause. We got Playing Hookies in the house. We got Ronnie Cole, Zulu. We got Beyond Geo, Zach Nichols, John Allen. John, thanks for clipping today. We got Janex in the house, Dog Digger, Donut Mind Me, and our friend John McGarvey, all helping to mod the fort down. Donut Mind Me is also clipping here today. Thank you, Donut. And you guys are just the best. John McGarvey's clipping for us. Thank you, John. You guys rock. All right. So also want to say thanks to the meme smiths, our friend Gigam Gigam, Nathan 810, and Sleepy Dog Lee, who memed the fort down for us. But my friends, that is it for us on the day. And so tomorrow, schedule will be a little bit wonked. We are posting. The goal is to post, but we'll be traveling. And so we'll see some new activities, maybe do a walk and talk, and we're going to learn lots of good knowledge. So we'll not see you back here at the same time tomorrow to do it all again, but we will see you back on this channel, not at the same time, but back here on this channel at a different time, probably in a pre-recorded video, to do it all again, because we need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. A beautiful week. We'll see you right back here on the next one. Make it a great night, my friends. Bye-bye.